Loss doesn't just hurt. It often paralyzes. And that's because when rebuilding, most people simply don't know where to start. Most people tell you to take it one step at a time. But no one seems to tell you which step comes first. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because the answer isn't to do everything at once. And it isn't to pick the most important thing, to start from there. It's something different. Something that I actually learned right here at this table, doing jigsaw puzzles with my mom. Welcome to Piece by Piece. I'm Brian, and this channel is all about rebuilding when life falls apart. Each episode, we work on a puzzle, and we talk about one aspect of rebuilding. Not theory, not even steps from a book, just real-life application of what I've learned while putting my life back together. Today's puzzle is Burma Road by an artist named Charles Wysocki. He painted American folk scenes, small towns, working farms, quiet streets. Eventually, this one will have a mill, a watermelon store, a farmhouse, figures going about their daily lives. In the end, it won't be one image, it'll be a collection of worlds inside of a frame. My mom loves Charles Wysocki puzzles. We've done a lot of them over the years. When my life fell apart, and I mean all of it, all at once, my parents came to stay with me for a while. During that time, my mom and I did puzzles. Lots of puzzles. And it helped me keep my mind from drifting into despair and anxiety. During the darkest season of my life, I watched my mom work. She didn't start in one corner and move systematically across like I did. She'd find one section, say this cart and horse, and she'd work on that, just that, until it was finished. And then she'd move on to say the mill, or the old church building, or maybe the farmhouse, or the watermelon store. Disconnected sections all across the puzzle. But then slowly, seemingly without much direction, the puzzle would start to come together. And all that was left was connecting what was already built. I don't believe my mom was deliberately trying to teach me anything. She was just doing puzzles the way that she always does puzzles. But I was watching, learning. And what neither of us understood at the time was that my mom was not simply doing a puzzle. She was showing me the only way that I was going to survive that season. When everything collapsed for me, I made a list. It's kind of what I do. I'm a list guy. I broke things down from big picture into smaller bite-sized pieces. There's an old question, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer, apparently, is one bite at a time. Overall, I think it's a really weird question because who eats elephants? But the point stands. You've got to break things down into bite-sized pieces. But regardless, the list that I made during that season was not helpful. I need to find a new apartment that's within a certain price range, that's in a new area so I don't feel triggered every time I'm driving around or driving home. I need to find a new job. I need to find a new therapist. I need to stay in contact with my family so we don't lose connection. I need to find out what my life even looks like now. And underneath all of that, the heaviest item on the list, the one that didn't even need a checkbox, I need to become someone who my kids can count on again. The list wasn't wrong. Everything on it was real and necessary. But the sheer size of it was overwhelming. Every line item was screaming at me simultaneously. And my brain, already running on empty, started shutting down. In fact, I had multiple psychiatrists tell me that I was on the brink of developing a panic disorder. That was the moment that I realized that my body was keeping score. And that if I couldn't find a way to work this solution differently, that something might break that could never be put back together. There's a psychologist named Ben Schwartz who studied what happens when people face too many choices simultaneously. What he found was not that having more options leads to better decisions. In fact, it's the opposite. Too many options at one time produces paralysis. The brain doesn't choose better under that kind of load. It stops choosing altogether. I had this belief that nearly destroyed me. That if I didn't succeed in solving that most important thing, that everything else would fall. That belief turned overwhelm into paralysis. And paralysis doesn't protect anything. It actually cost me time that I didn't have. And by the way, being overwhelmed isn't weakness, it's information. My entire nervous system was trying to tell me something. You can't carry this all at once. Something has to come first. What many people don't understand about building anything is that there are two separate questions that you need to ask. The first question is, what matters most? That's prioritizing. It's ranking by value, by importance. The second question is, what goes first? That's sequencing. You're deciding order. Not importance, order. And those two things are not the same question. Let me give you the clearest illustration that I have for the differentiation between priority and sequence. It's likely that the most important thing that you're wearing today may be your t-shirt, or the jacket, or the dress you're wearing. It's likely the item of clothing that the world is going to see. That's priority. But it's also not likely that that was the first thing that you put on today. That's sequencing. Unless you're Winnie the Pooh or Donald Duck, there is a sequence in which we get dressed. You put your clothes on in sequence so that the most important thing, whether that be the shirt, the pants, the jacket, the dress, can be prioritized. Sequencing serves prioritizing. They work together. But you do have to ask both questions. What matters most, and what goes first? When my life fell apart, my kids were priority. Unquestionably the most important thing. But if I led with that, if I started to rebuild my relationship with my children before I had any solid ground to stand on, it's likely that I would have had nothing to offer them. I was an emotional disaster, and I needed to put in the time and the work to become someone that they could lean on again. And more practically, if I didn't find an apartment near them quickly, I was likely going to have to move across the country to stay with family members. The apartment was not the most important thing, but it did need to come first. Because finding that apartment, securing a place within a reasonable distance of my children, was the move that made everything else possible. The sequence was what kept my priorities within reach. When I found that apartment, something in my nervous system exhaled. Not because the hard part was over with, but because one section was stable. One piece of the chaos was no longer chaos. And when one section was secure, it made the next section more manageable. Daniel Kahneman's work on decision-making shows that the brain under sustained pressure makes measurably worse decisions. Every open question, every unresolved choice is costing you cognitive bandwidth, whether you're aware of it or not. And somehow sequencing, deciding in advance what comes next, removes that burden from your brain. Because you don't have to decide when you're under pressure. You can actually decide in advance when you're thinking clearly. Think about it like this. I'm not ignoring the riverbed or the old church building. I'm simply saying it's not its turn yet. My sections, the categories that I used to sequence and prioritize my life, was purpose, place, people. I needed a new purpose, a new sense of what am I here for? I needed a new place to live. And I needed people who would actually stick by me this time, that would truly be ride or die. Now, that's what worked for me. I use that framing because alliteration helps me remember things. But that's my map. Your sections don't have to look like mine. They shouldn't. Because your loss, your rebuild, is different than mine. What matters most is that you find your sections, the natural clusters of how your puzzle is going to be put back together. Not that you borrow mine. B.J. Fogg, a behavioral scientist at Stanford, spent years studying how people actually change. Not how they intend to, but how they actually do it. And what he found was that small wins are more than just feel-good moments. They actually change the brain's chemistry and prepare it for the next task. Completing a section doesn't just solve that section, it actually makes the next section feel possible in a way that motivation alone never could. And for me, finding that apartment was more than a practical solution. It was the first section snapping into place so that momentum could build from there. Because once that was stabilized, something shifted. Not everything, but that first small win fell into place. And here's what I want you to really lean into. Resolving all of the chaos, working it in sections, finding the sequence didn't just help me function. It made me capable of being present for those people that actually needed me. My kids were waiting, and I needed to become someone that was worth waiting for. That sequencing was self-preservation, but it was also more than that. It was preparation for the next section. As usual, there are practical exercises that you can do after this episode. 3 steps. That's it. Step 1, empty it. Everything that's living in your head right now. Every item on your list, every open question, everything that's screaming that it should be next. Just put it on paper. Don't organize it. Don't judge it. Don't even sequence it yet. Just get it out of your head and somewhere that you can see it. That list that is overwhelming you is overwhelming in part because it has nowhere to live but inside your head. So put it on paper. Step 2, find your sections. Take everything that you've written and find what belongs together. Not my categories, not my sections, but yours. What are the buildings within your puzzle? Name the sections. 2, 3, 4. Whatever fits your situation. And keep in mind that you're not solving anything yet, you're just finding the shape of things. In step 3, ask the underwear question. Not what matters most, but what comes first. What has to happen before anything else can happen? That becomes your sequence. Start there. Just there. I don't believe my mom set out to teach me anything that year. She just showed up every day. And she did what she always does. She worked one section at a time, unhurried, while everything around us was still scattered. You don't have to rebuild everything today. You just have to know which section is yours right now. Work that one. The rest will still be there. And when you're ready, those sections will find each other. My mom knew that. And when I needed it most, she sat across this table from me and she showed me. We started today with a feeling that most of us know, that loss can cause paralysis because there's too many things hitting us all at once. Every piece of our rebuild seems to be screaming that it should be next. What I hope you're leaving with is something much simpler than all of that. That maybe your most important thing and the first thing are not always the same. That you need to find your sections, ask which one comes first, and then work them one at a time. The next chapter is still coming. It's just not its turn yet. Thanks for watching. If this episode found you at the right moment, I'd be grateful if you shared it with someone who's rebuilding. And in the comments, tell me, what's the one section you need to work on first, right now? One word is enough. I'll respond to every comment that I can. Oh, and one more thing. If you're in crisis right now, please don't wait. Call or text 988 for the National Suicide Prevention Line, or text HOME to 741-741 for the crisis text line. These resources are here for you, and you don't have to do this alone. Until next time, let's keep rebuilding, piece by piece.